Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 89 for January 9th, 2009. Tripod, the beta. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. For your free audiobook, visit audible.com/Windows. This is Windows Weekly, the show where we talk about all things Microsoft, Zune, and Windows Mobile, and Xbox 360. On the line with us, two people who did not go to Las Vegas.
Right. Who will speak authoritatively about it nonetheless.
Hey, that never stopped us before. Paul Thurrott is here, of course, from the SuperSite for Windows Wins, supersite.com. And that's the place to go for all great Windows coverage. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
You did not go, huh?
No.
And he's proud of it. I asked Mary Jo Foley, who's also here. She's been on the show many times before. She's a ZDNet blogger at blogs.zdnet.com/Microsoft. In fact, didn't you just win an award, Mary Jo, as like the best Microsoft coverage or something like that? I just saw your name on that. Do you know?
If I did, I'm happy, but I'll take credit for one if I didn't.
It's most trusted journalist, and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, it's good to have you back. And I asked Mary Jo, I said, did you go to CES? And her response was?
Hell no.
Why is it that people who've been to CES a few years just don't want to go anymore?
I think that you've just answered your own question.
Yep.
Is it too crowded?
Where do we even
why?
begin?
Yeah.
It's like smoke, noise, casinos, blah, blah, blah.
And you schedule meetings that are almost back to back, and then you realize it's 1.7 miles to the next meeting. And there is no ride to be had.
There's no cabs. You're going to be in the cab line for 2 hours.
Yeah. It's
and
not a simple show, Leo.
I liken it to watching a football game in person. You get the atmospherics, and it's kind of exciting, but you don't see the game.
Sure. And it's hard to keep it in perspective when you're right on top of it. You don't know. You could be in a room full of thousands and thousands of people, flashing lights and ringing noises, and maybe the real thing that's happening at the show is in the next exhibit hall. I mean, how would you know?
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a weird thing. It just got too big.
We stayed home and covered it from here. But let's do this in chronological order.
Okay.
We'll start with Macworld Expo. That's where I've been for the last few days. That's easy for me because I'm in San Francisco Bay Area. So I just, it's just a...
So let me ask you, though, if you weren't in San Francisco Bay Area, and obviously you spoke there, that's a different scenario, but just as a journalist, I mean, would you say that going to that show was worthwhile this year?
It's never worthwhile as a journalist. It's only worthwhile, and it is worthwhile if you like the Mac community and you like hanging out with the Mac community, which I do. If it were in Detroit, or even, I never went to Boston or New York, so I think the proof's in the pudding. No, I probably wouldn't. But it's such a small show. There's nothing really there to see. That's one where you really go for the people, the atmosphere, the community, even if Steve Jobs is speaking. Now, Steve Jobs didn't speak this time. He won't be speaking ever again at Macworld Expo. In fact, Apple's not even going to go to Macworld Expo. Macworld Expo announced already that David Pogue is doing the keynote.
So weird. Really?
Yeah.
Well, he did that at the Boston one, didn't he? The last Boston one.
Maybe there's a history of it. Of course, there was only one more Boston one after Apple pulled out of Boston.
It was me and 17 other people. It was nice.
Was it really tiny? That last one?
It was an intimate gathering.
Is he going to sing?
Yeah, he sang this. He always does this feature presentation. He did it again. It's Macworld Live, and it's really fun. He had that guy, the kid who's going all around the world dancing. What's his name? He had him dancing. David puts on a show. It's like the Carson show or the Tonight. Boy, am I dating myself?
How would you compare this guy to Tripod? That's a kind of an inside joke all of a sudden.
I almost don't want to ask what Tripod is.
This is,
oh my.
people who have,
okay, that's that. Stop.
And they have the shared experience.
Tripod.
That's what Tripod is for us.
Okay. So but did you watch the keynote from a distance?
The Macworld keynote?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't live broadcast it, right? So I actually did watch it later. And I followed a bunch of the live blogging at the time. And I got on Twitter to just kind of discuss it with people, but it turned into kind of a comedy routine because I don't know what your feeling is on this, but I mean, they really didn't announce much, in my opinion. Although I have to say, to be fair, last year I complained that Macworld was not about the Mac.
Right.
And of course, this year they talked about the Mac. And
they kind of made a point that it was about the Mac this year.
Yes. Right. And I found it kind of uninteresting, I have to say.
I watched, I was keeping up with it on the friend feed, live blogging feed that VentureBeat was doing. That was really pretty good. And that's why we ended up doing our live chat that we did on friend feed too, because it worked out pretty well.
Friend feed's great. I'm a big friend feed fan. It's a very good real time experience, in my opinion. But that's a side note.
Well, actually, no. Mary Jo and I and Tom Warren from NeoWin used friend feed to live blog the CES keynote last.
Oh,
yep. And it was it was very live, really very real time.
Yeah, and people comment on it in real time and everything.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
fun.
I think my only complaint about it. Well, maybe two complaints would be I'd had trouble keeping up. Yeah. It seemed like every once in a while I could only see my comments, and then all of a sudden, 30 to 50 comments would come flying in. And the other thing was that when we also did live blogging of PDC, and we used what was it called, Cover It Live or Cover It Live.
Cover It Live.
The one thing I did like about that was that you could keep the comments to the side. Yeah. They weren't intermingled with what we did.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
I use Cover It Live. I kind of like Cover It Live.
Yeah, it's a live you learn kind of thing, I think.
You know what? Yeah. All that stuff has kind of inspired me to do a Jabber feed that we're going to put a scroll across it won't be on the video, but above the video of kind of live blogging of what we're talking. Like right now, people, we've got these chat rooms going on, right. but they're conversations. What we'd like to do is, put links across the top, more information, people's, salient comments and stuff. And
I think what we should do, Leo, actually, is go across the country and record podcasts in a different person's house every day.
It's all about the community, baby.
Right, from like Maine to California.
You could come to New York. I don't have a big place, but you could both fit in here.
Deal. Podcast at Mary Jo's. We'll all see you there next time. No, but the reason live blogging is compelling is there's this feeling of sense of event, and of everybody together. Yeah. It's like we're sitting all together. You may not be at the Super Bowl, but if you're all sitting together watching the Super Bowl, I go on Twitter and tweet during the Oscars, and it's like everybody's watching together.
Exactly. And if you were sitting with me at a show, I would be ripping into the guy from Microsoft just like I do on Cover It Live or Friend Feed or Twitter, or whatever.
That's fun. Exactly. So what did you think of Phil Schiller's performance? I mean, look, that's a tough thing to Bill Gates.
He was fine. I actually like Phil Schiller a lot. In fact,
he's a nice guy.
I don't understand what he's doing at Apple at all, but
he should know better. Is that what you're saying?
He's clearly a good guy.
I think here's the argument I would make as a dyed-in-the-wool Mac lover, that it is important to show software. This is software that comes with the Macintosh, right? This iLife package. And when you have something compelling like iPhoto with the face recognition and iMovie, where they really made some major improvements, that's important. People buy computers because of the software.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're right. It's as silly as Steve Ballmer doing a keynote saying, look how we've improved Windows Movie Maker. It's not,
No, but, there's some precedent for this. Steve Jobs has spent an enormous amount of time in keynotes talking about individual features in iChat or, that was not a Phil Schiller thing. I mean, that's fine. That Apple has done that in the past. I found the talk to be very typical of the Apple presentations. It's a slick job. It's nicely done. But I think from a wide industry perspective, the only thing that they talked about there that I think impacts everybody is the DRM-free music.
That's huge.
At iTunes. It is huge. And the couple of things that I think of when they do this is, one, Apple has fought, variable pricing forever, and they finally do it.
Steve for some reason, I never understood. He said, oh, no, everything's got to be 99 cents.
Because he said that they would want to charge more for music and that, consumers would be screwed. But, when they actually go to this, most of the music will actually be 69 cents. It'll be cheaper.
They'll only charge $1.29 for Britney Spears. So I think that's fine.
Which is fine. I mean, I
don't want it.
Yeah, that's the savings, right?
But all the stuff the old folks like me want is the catalog stuff. And that's 69 cents. Now, what about this? I think this is actually appalling. They're going to 8 million songs will go DRM free or are DRM free out of the 10 million that they have now, and then the rest will be all. So basically, they got the record labels to say, okay, basically we're done with DRM.
I think it was a deal with the variable pricing. That's how they did it.
We're done with the DRM. I'm kind of thinking that maybe Jobs kind of held out on the variable pricing so that he'd have some leverage with the record companies. Okay. But now here's the thing: if I want to upgrade all my songs, it's going to cost me 30 cents a song, even though going forward. I could buy that song at the same price I paid for the copy protected music.
Actually, for less in many cases.
For less in many cases. That's a little frustrating.
So the issue with that is you don't have a choice because you either do it or you don't. You can't go in and say, well, I want this album to be upgraded.
Right. It's all or nothing.
That's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy.
The only way, and if somebody said, oh, you could archive the stuff in your library, then they wouldn't know you have it. No, it's based on what you've purchased in the past. Yeah. Because you know how I know that? Because when I was on Regis and Kelly like 4 years ago, I bought Regis Philbin's album, something like Notre Dame fight songs, and I deleted it immediately after the show. God knows I don't have it in my library, but iTunes said, and by the way, when you upgrade to your copy protected free, you're getting the entire Regis Philbin Notre Dame fight songs unprotected.
I just think that stinks. And
it does stink. I don't want it.
I think what's going to happen is they'll fix that because people are going to complain.
Well, I'm complaining right now.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
That's just stupid.
Yeah.
I will say this, too. I mean, I've done a lot of complaining about the Apple stuff, and I've talked a lot about, formats and so forth. I think we're reaching the point, and it's weird because with Microsoft and is sort of behind this with Windows 7 and Media Center and Media Player, they support AAC now. I've always said, AAC was kind of a format you want to be a little careful about, just for portability purposes.
Because a lot of players don't do it.
Yeah, but I think we're getting to the point where it doesn't matter as much anymore, so. What are they doing? 256K AAC? That's okay. I think it's okay.
Well, AAC is the successor to MP3. I mean, it was designed as to be a better MP3. It's not some out of the left field format. It's just that not everybody supports it.
It's just not widely supported, but I think it's getting there. And so whereas maybe a year ago this wouldn't have been as great, I think, looking forward, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Okay, enough of Apple. All the Windows people are going. But I just want to point this out. It's not me that's dragging Paul kicking and screaming to Macworld Expo. You said you wanted to talk about that, but these are important issues. I think for everybody.
That's your story, Leo, and I'll tell you if you want me to go along with that.
I made him do it. No,
wait. We forgot one thing though. Apple tax. The Apple tax.
Yes.
What's the Apple tax?
What's the Apple tax? Leo was like an innocent babe in the woods. He's never heard of this.
The app? You mean the premium price that you have to pay for Apple hardware?
Right.
That's one of the Apple taxes.
What's the other Apple tax?
There's all kinds of Apple taxes.
Well, wait a minute. That term comes. I know this is Steve Ballmer brought this up, but there's always been a Microsoft tax. Yeah. There's always been a Microsoft tax on PC hardware, right? If you want Windows on it, you pay an extra $30 or $60, right? So that's the Microsoft tax.
Can you get it without Windows on it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure that's a tax as much as it is a built-in cost. It's like the insurance payments on the auto workers that we pay for when we get a Ford or whatever. It's just part of the deal.
Did you see the Onion News Network's fake news story about the one-button Mac?
Well done.
Yeah, no kidding.
Very well done.
Wasn't that funny? That was so funny.
Really professionally done. It looked like a CNN broadcast. I mean,
I showed it to somebody. He said, wait a minute. I didn't see that announcement.
Yeah. If it's shiny and Apple makes it, I'll pretty much buy it.
That was the line I loved.
It's like, it's unclear if businesses will pick it up because they use computers to actually get work done, not just for dick. Which I thought was beautiful, too.
See, it just shows you, that Microsoft could do ads like that. Apple takes shots at Microsoft in these Switch ads, and Microsoft has yet to do kind of humorous jabs at Apple. They're ripe for this. They could do it if they wanted to.
I think the Apple tax thing that Mary Jo was just talking about is clearly a very small group in Microsoft that wants to, maybe use the current climate at the company to start talking about this stuff, because I think a year or two ago, this would never have come out from Microsoft.
We're above all this is Microsoft's attitude.
Yeah, we don't have to mention Apple. Yeah.
We're number one.
But now they're starting to talk about it. I think it's interesting. I think there's some truth to it, and I think it's okay. The one thing I will say about this, I think, Mary Jo, if I get you correctly, are you not on board with the Apple tax concept, or?
Well, my point when I wrote about it this week was, yes, Macs are more expensive, but if the users are like lambs being led to slaughter and they're willing to pay for it, is it still a tax?
Right. Well, is there a BMW tax? You're still getting a car,
okay, actually,
right?
I brought the BMW up thing. I talked to the same person Mary Jo did, right? Brad Brooks, or
Brad Brooks. Yep.
I brought up the BMW thing, and I said, Mac people like to think of the Mac as the BMW of computers.
Product,
and he actually said something I thought was kind of cute. He said, yeah, fair enough. But he said, but we're Toyota, and we make Corollas, and we make Lexus,
right? And
you can get value across the price range, and that's actually an interesting comparison.
Consumers are very aware of this, especially with the economy the way it is. Everybody's aware of it. In fact, I think there was a little bit of a gulp in the crowd when they announced the price of the new 17-inch MacBook. I mean, here we are in this tough economy, and they're announcing a computer that starts at $27,000.
Computer,
Yeah.
Yep, I love it.
It's really an over $3,000.
Mini we were promised. How about introducing a $300 something? I
was surprised that there was nothing cheap announced.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the iWork remote is only 99 cents.
I bought it. I gave a speech today. I gave a speech this morning on the new Keynote, based on the new Keynote 09, and I bought that 99-cent remote control thing, and I abandoned it after 2 slides because the phone kept going to sleep.
So, well, I mean, but that's the gamut, right? It's 99 cents to $3,000.
Right. What tax? What are you talking about? It's cheap.
Well, the thing I think is going to be interesting on this Apple tax argument is, okay, so people who buy Macs right now, this the core faithful Mac-loving audience, they're willing to pay the tax. But what happens when Apple starts trying to expand beyond its core?
Yeah. Oh, which I think they already are. I mean, and I actually, that was one of the questions I asked, and he didn't actually like.
No, they don't have an answer on that part, right?
Well, but don't you think Apple, at some point, especially given the current economy, don't you think they have to kind of plateau? I mean,
well, they already are. I think the sales figures were very bad for this the last quarter, weren't they? They're starting to go down. They're starting to trend down. No, I think they had a very good quarter. The fourth quarter of Apple's fiscal year was very good, and the sales are now trending down quite a bit.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, moving on. Let's go to Vegas. They do this every year. They put CES overlapping Macworld Expo. I guess we don't have to worry about that much longer. Mm-hmm. It's funny because all my friends are at Macworld Expo. They were there on Tuesday, and then they're all leaving to go to Vegas for CES. Steve Ballmer spoke Wednesday night. Tell us about that.
I would say he wasn't as nervous as Phil Schiller.
Yeah, Phil was palpably nervous for the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
And who wouldn't be? I mean, that's fair enough. Not a problem. He was fine. It was a very standard Microsoft presentation, I thought.
Yeah, I agree.
Any announcements of anything new? Anything surprise you that you were as you were?
Comes to mind. No, I think that's all we have.
I was going to say we all kind of knew what was coming. That's why it was like kind of a letdown, because everybody kind of had leaked out like Windows 7 beta is going to be announced, and Windows Live Essentials is done, and the Dell deal we knew about. So it was like, okay, what do they have left as like one more thing? Nothing. And the thing that kills me is they have things to talk about, and they didn't talk about any of them. Yeah.
There's Windows Home Server stuff going on,
right?
And they barely mention that in the keynote. And there's some Windows Home Server stuff going on at the show, but they're not talking about what they're doing later in the year with Windows Home Server.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't talk about the next version of Windows Mobile at all.
Right.
They barely mentioned Windows Mobile.
Right.
They never mentioned Zune Mobile.
Nope.
I found that stuff to be kind of odd. Although, Mary Jo, you talked to Mike Nash today.
I did. Yep.
You did. So one of the things he said to me that today as well that I thought was really interesting was that there seems to be some influence of the Windows group, the Windows 7 team, on the rest of Microsoft. That their scheme to not come out and say anything until they're positive that it's going to happen the way they say it's going to is somehow, occurring in other parts of the company. So the Windows Mobile guys don't want to say anything about the next version because they don't really know what's going on with that yet. And Windows Home Server guys are not saying anything about the next version of that software, et cetera. So there seems to be some, the permeation of that Windows 7 team, way of doing things to other parts of Microsoft.
Did they give a ship date for Windows 7?
No. And in fact, I went on a rant about this today. They even told News.com in an interview, we can't even say it's going to ship in 2009. We can't even commit to that. It's like, guys.
Listen, I guarantee you that whoever said that to News.com called someone back at work and said, I can't believe I just said that with a straight face.
Well,
what's their reluctance to say that?
Well, there's so many pieces, right? Yeah, they don't want to overpromise. They got so burned on Vista on that, right? Like were almost sure it was going to ship, and then they had to pull back. But at this point, I feel like they're doing a disservice to the customers because everybody knows it's going to ship this year,
and it's done.
Right, it's done. It's done. Yeah,
they confirmed that this is the only beta.
Really?
Right. They confirmed that there will be.
Well, they called it the beta.
The beta.
No, I
not a beta. The beta.
This is it. This is one beta. They said the next one is a release candidate, and the next one after that is going out to customers. That's it.
Does that concern you that they're only doing one public beta? I mean, that was one of the problems with Vista. It wasn't tested enough.
So yes, actually, yes, it does concern me. But I just want to point out, I'll just give you what they told me, which is that they're doing things differently now. They've changed the meanings of these terms. So the M3 build, the pre-beta version that we got back in October, that's an alpha build.
Right.
It's what they call API complete. The beta now for Microsoft is a product that is feature complete, but not quite ready to ship. And it's just a different way of doing things, My concerns are that by the time this thing gets out to the public in this form and is feature complete, what happens when they get feedback from people that say, hey, actually this new taskbar is ridiculous. Why did you do this?
Yep.
And their response to that is, well, you don't understand. We've had years of usability testing.
Yeah.
We don't understand. We're done. Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, it's like Office, right? It's exactly like Office, which isn't surprising.
That's a weird coincidence.
Yeah, it's not surprising since Sanofsky came from Office, but I think the Windows community is used to having a lot more input than they're going to have with Windows 7.
Oh, yeah. Hey, the technical beta never got the code for this until the day of the keynote.
Yeah.
The night of the keynote, I think it was.
Yep.
That's crazy. In the past, these guys would have had builds.
Right.
Many builds.
Right.
Before it ever went to the public.
Is it going to impact reliability, or is it merely usability that you're worried about?
Mostly usability. One thing I asked is the next time I go out and visit them out there and have a campus visit, I want to talk about this because I am concerned. I want to know more about this usability testing stuff because I see this stuff and I look, I'm not a genius, but I immediately can point out some things that I think are serious problems. And I don't really like the answers I'm getting. Right. And I'm concerned about it.
Mary Jo, do you think that the ribbon in Office, that was kind of a problem that could have been avoided with more usability testing?
Well, I think you're going to see the same thing in Vista, like Paul's talking about too. I mean, sorry, Windows 7. Whoops.
Same thing, Mary.
Aren't they the same? Yeah.
Because, remember when people first saw the ribbon, there was this huge outcry that was in beta, right? And I think when people first see this taskbar, there's going to be a ton of pushback. And I don't think it's like it's done, like Paul's saying, and like it doesn't matter. Like, and they're going to say, we've got a base of testers who like it, and too bad. That's it.
Right. And by the way, it doesn't mean the thing's ruined or anything.
No.
I just think there are inconsistencies. I think there should have been at least some kind of discussion about some of the features. I don't know. So
I mean, I think it's interesting. Every time I ask them, how many people have tested it? Like you keep saying, there's a big group of testers. How many?
Right.
And they won't say.
They never. Who are these people?
Right.
Are they engineers at Microsoft? God forbid. Are they people you pull off the street and promise a free meal if they'll just use your new taskbar for a few minutes? I mean, what is this? I don't know.
They're getting more like Apple. Apple doesn't ask anybody. They just say, no, this is the feature
set. And by the way, that is exactly my point, and I am freaked by that.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're not, you don't get to vote. What makes you think you get to vote?
I know, but exactly.
We're writing the code. We'll tell you how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So what
it's a little trouble.
So Ballmer announced, talked about Windows 7, the beta. Mm-hmm. He talked about Windows Server 2008 beta. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bare mention, a quick.
Yeah, I mentioned it, but it's CES. For those consumers that need to run a data center in their closet, we do have a product for you.
Any Zune news?
Nope.
No.
Zune phone news?
Nope.
No.
Any Windows Mobile news? You said there was no Windows Mobile news.
They mentioned, they showed some phones. I was hoping to see something new. Here are some phones coming out this year that you have never seen before. And there were none. There were all the phones I've already seen.
Right.
How is this possible?
Mesh? Did they talk about Mesh?
No, and I thought I grilled them on that today because I'm like, how could you not mention Mesh? Like that's Ray Oz's baby.
How is it possible that Live Mesh actually kind of breaks on Windows 7, by the way? If you install Live Mesh on Windows 7, the glass turns black and you can't fix it. The only way you can fix it is to uninstall Mesh.
That's not good.
Yeah, I figured they would have fixed this one before the beta. This has been a problem for the past, 3-4 months or whatever. But it's still there in the beta.
Robert Scoble said an interesting thing. He said, I could never talk about this when I was at Microsoft, but I'm watching this whole, Vista debacle. And he said what they really did is there was so much .NET in it, and they had to tear it all out and start from scratch.
Sure.
You think that's the issue? Is it .NET issues?
I wouldn't describe it as .NET. I think what he's describing is the code base at the time they were working on that, sidebar and all that stuff. And that's what they tore out and they started over from scratch. I think I wouldn't describe it as a .NET problem. It was just
he said that the Gates really wanted .NET in there, but they had to they had to say no .NET.
No .NET.
They actually made a rule. There will not be any .NET code in this. Or we won't, we don't want to see any .NET code in there. I don't know. I thought it was kind of an interesting insight from a guy who was right there. Of course, he said they also didn't tell me anything because they know I'll tell the world. So,
sure,
right. They are going to announce their earnings soon, right?
Well, right. So one of the things I asked today was I talked to Mike Nash and I said, look, I do have some questions here. I'm a little concerned. You never mention things like how well Windows Vista has sold. It seems like this would have been
every Apple keynote begins. We sold 57 million Macintoshes.
Exactly. Why didn't you do that? And he said, actually, we're forbidden from discussing that because we're releasing our earnings in less than 2 weeks.
Oh, the SEC
and
won't.
It's an SEC rule about that kind of thing, and we can't do that before we. So I said, and that's fine. But my feeling on that is, then say that. Say Vista is selling better than people thought it was, and we'll have more details in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or something, or whatever the story is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really talk about momentum without why you believe there is a momentum, or whatever.
Right.
I thought that was kind of weird. They didn't mention the Windows 7 schedule during the keynote. They didn't mention the SKUs, the product versions.
They at least show Windows 7.
They did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They showed a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. How about Azure?
No mention.
They didn't even mention Azure?
No, they showed Hotmail.
Hotmail.
I get why they didn't show Azure though.
I do too.
That's more like a developer data center thing.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
it's not a consumer product.
No.
Mesh is the consumer face.
Why
of that.
Mesh though? I'm very confused. They didn't show that.
Yeah.
Well, plus Mesh, being one of two products at Microsoft that are nearly identical, right? So they have, Windows Live Sync, which apparently will be based on Mesh at some point. But again, this is so typical of Microsoft. They promise they're going to clean up their act, and then they here they are with two different things doing exactly the same function, and it's just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't mention either one of them actually, so.
I'm surprised they didn't mention the MediaSmart, the Windows, the HP thing that got leaked out earlier.
Yeah,
seems like they would have wanted to talk about that. No.
I know. I even had a briefing with the Windows Home Server guys before CES, so I assumed there would be some awesome home server stuff in the keynote. I don't think they mentioned the phrase Windows Home Server once.
No.
Seems to me for consumers, that's a very compelling product. They really need to push it better.
Yeah, and the new, the HPs are awesome. have new partners like I think it's Acer and Via and Shuttle are now selling home servers, different form factors. It's a cool product. And it's one of those, it's a tough sell because it's a hard thing to explain to people why they need it. But it is one of those things, once you have it, you wonder how you lived without it.
Yeah.
And I noticed today, before the show, actually having talked to Mike Nash, he told me something that figures into one of my tips. But I was playing around with Media Center Extender on the Xbox, and I actually got a pop-up that said, hey, there's an update available, and we will let you see all of your content on Windows Home Server from the Media Center Extender.
Neat.
Right? So nice little bit of integration there. And I don't know where this came from or how it, I've never seen this before. It was the first time I believe this is new. And I installed that, and it immediately picked up all of the content on the server without me having to do anything.
Neat.
Yeah, very cool. Didn't talk about it, though. Yeah. It's the type of thing I have to think people would have enjoyed had they discussed it. I just don't understand these people sometimes.
All right, I'm going through the list. Xbox, they talk about that?
They talked about Xbox, but
okay.
again, well, actually, so Mary Jo, let me ask you a question. What's your feeling on this? It's the new year. You're going to give a big presentation in your Microsoft. Do you talk about what's coming in the current year? Or do you just do like a recap of how well all your products are already doing in the marketplace, right?
I would have talked about the future, but I guess in the New World Order, that's not allowed.
But that's all they did was talk about the past. And I just find that bizarre. This is not an internal company meeting. It's not an analyst meeting. Yeah. You're looking at the new year. CES is all about the products that are going to be on sale at the next holiday season, essentially.
Right. It's a way in advance thing, yeah.
So, I'm ecstatic that the Xbox did so well as long as we pretend the market leader doesn't exist. But what's happening?
Right.
All they did was show stuff we already knew about.
Right.
They showed 2 games coming, right?
Yeah, big deal. I mean,
which games?
Yeah, we have exactly one popular game title, and we're going to make 2 more of those next year.
Don't ask me what games. I'm not a gamer.
It was Halo Wars and some sort of Halo 3.
That's when I was drinking beer at that point during our live chat.
Now, I have to say, you weren't there. I was going to say, if they have beer at the keynote, I'm going next year.
Yeah,
okay.
Woohoo! Another reason not to go to Vegas.
The beer.
Actually, Microsoft drinking games might be interesting. Every time they say the word momentum, you have to take a drink. That kind of thing.
We'd be pretty drunk halfway through the keynote.
Momentum, huh? Momentum.
So I don't know.
So do you think Bill Gates is missed? Or it doesn't sound like particular. I mean, it sounds like Steve did a good job.
It was fine.
For what it was. I mean, it wasn't. You're not complaining about how he did it. You're complaining about the lack of information about it.
Actually, was Steve Ballmer even on stage for most of the evening? It seemed like
not
it was
a lot.
He just would bring in the demo guys, and they would do the thing.
There were beatbox people and tripod.
No, tripod.
What is tripod now? I gotta know it. I don't know what this is. What is
There are
it?
3 guys.
Yeah,
3 guys from Australia who sing a cappella, but they were singing songs that used words like Microsoft Surface.
It was
I don't know.
Microsoft Surface, it's really swinging. I love Microsoft. I love the way they do it.
So you do know who Tripod is. I have never seen anything that lame in my entire life.
That's pretty lame.
It was unbelievable.
I got to point out that at least at the end of Phil Schiller's keynote, at least they brought out Tony Bennett to sing I Left My Heart in San Francisco. They didn't bring out some groups going, Microsoft Surface, it's the coolest. I love the way.
That goes right next to Regis Fight songs.
Put that on my playlist. Music you love.
Actually, Steve Ballmer disappeared for the middle hour. I don't know. He was gone forever. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Well, let's play, just because we didn't hear it, let's just play a little bit of Tripod, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you Tripod.
Music style.
That is, I'm sorry, I can't play anymore. That is so pathetic.
Now imagine that with words, from the technology industry, right? Insert the words Windows and Vista and
I don't get it. This is Microsoft. Did they at least have cute videos making fun of famous TV commercials? Did they show a Seinfeld clip?
No.
No, and by the way, where was the Bill Gates, clip or something? Or,
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Oh,
It would have.
Yeah, just a little levity in there.
Yeah.
You know, this is why trade shows are going away. They've just become boring, state-old events. You know, actually, and I know you weren't prepared to cover this, but it looks like the biggest story at CES is, in fact, the Palm story.
I just want to be clear on what you just said. The biggest story at CES.
Well, maybe not.
No, maybe it is. I don't know.
It's getting a lot of coverage.
That's great. I hope it's true in a way. I mean, the Palm you're talking about.
Yeah, they announced their new
And how do you pronounce this? Of course, they have to use a name that looks like it's a piece of IKEA furniture. You know, it's got some kind of umlaut on it or something.
The Palm Pre. It is. It's a new phone. Sprint will have it sometime in this first half of the year. Completely new Palm OS. It's got a keyboard. It's another iPhone killer, and before it looks great on paper. It looks great, as did the BlackBerry Storm and other phones. I mean, until I get my hands on it, you don't really know if it is going to be great. But I'll tell you, why it became the story is because it revitalized Palm's stock. The stock went up like 30% after the announcement.
What,
yeah, well, exactly.
What are we talking about there?
If you had bought it at the bottom, you would have made some money.
Okay. Well, it looks pretty. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I want them to succeed. I feel bad about what happened to Palm. I mean, arguably they kind of invented this whole market.
Oh, yeah, it's very sad. I mean, it was theirs to lose, and but in a way, it was it's not unheard of. Scion was there, Apple even was there with a Newton, but it was Palm that owned it. But and then Windows Mobile.
Is there any genetic similarity between this and its predecessor?
No.
Does it have a Palm-like look to it, or
no? It's more like an iPhone than anything else.
Well, I mean the software. In other words, one of the nice things about Palm devices was just the simplicity of it, right?
Well, and they didn't. It will sync with Outlook, which I guess it has to. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
But I don't know. It doesn't look like anything Palm's done before, but who knows what's under the hood? It's just so hard with a demo to know.
I need to know more about this. I
think the thing it's a very powerful processor. They said it's virtually laptop level performance, and certainly the visual effects that you see on it might lend you to believe that. But there's things missing. Like, is there a music store? How do you get? They've talked about music playing, but where's the music store? It's one of those things that it's an unknown until it ships. It will have EVDO and Wi-Fi built in. I love that.
I think I blogged about this a little bit today. You and I have talked a lot about my desire to do as much as possible on the Microsoft side because, I write about that stuff and that's the audience and I need to be conversant in it and so forth. But the one thing I can't shake, and it just gets harder and harder over time, is the iPhone, right? And as they improve it over time with all these applications, that was a big one, recently with the ability to buy music over the air, regardless of what kind of connection you have and so forth. It just gets, the gap just gets bigger and bigger. And this thing seems nice, but the problem is by the time this ships, and when's that going to happen?
Sometime next 6 months, yeah.
Next 6 months. So 6 months from now. What's the bar for leaving what I already have to go there? Right. First of all, they're on Sprint, right? So I'd have to switch carriers. I mean, I'm going to have to pay hundreds of dollars just to leave.
They didn't announce a price, and who knows? It may be a $400 phone. We don't really know.
Yeah, and then you pay $100 a month or $80 a month or whatever that works out to be, just to own the thing. I don't know. I mean,
there's a lot of momentum against them. To use
momentum,
you may drink.
You drink.
That's good. That's good. I hope you had some beer there, Mary Jo.
I did. It's right here.
There's a reason we're not on video tonight.
Yeah, baby.
I don't know. I mean, I don't wish them ill. In fact, I'd love to see them come surging back. I really like Palm.
And
their product. I have over the years, and I've had so many of their products, but I don't know.
I'm rooting for them. I would like to see competition for the iPhone. I mean, it's great. It's great that the iPhone has set the bar for other phones, and I'd like to see these phones step up and match them.
Sure.
So far, I don't think there's anything out there that does.
No,
Hey,
I don't think so.
When did they said tomorrow Windows 7. Now we're recording Thursday night. So Windows 7 comes out Friday.
Oh, I should mention
9th.
too. Yeah, so sometime on Friday.
What time?
They didn't say, but sometime on Friday.
I heard 6 a.m. Pacific.
6 a.m. Pacific. Okay, because it's important because they're only going to let 2.5 million people download.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you think you're going to want this,
I want it.
You're going to want to grab it early. But that said, you can install. I mean, you'll be able to download it from anywhere eventually.
Is there anything that'll keep people from putting it on BitTorrent once they get a copy of it?
No, it's already on BitTorrent. So the advantage of getting it from Microsoft legitimately, aside from the fact that you're guaranteed it's not going to be bad in any way.
Right.
Actually, that's not true either. I'll get to that in a second. Aside from that,
yes,
you get a product key, so you can actually activate it.
Right.
If you download it on BitTorrent, you'd have to deal with the inability to activate it. Yeah, one of the little gotchas here, and I'm curious to see how they handle this for the public beta, is that there's an MP3 bug in the Windows 7 beta. And if you, I don't know if you have to play the song or just display it in Media Player, I'm not sure how it works, but it actually truncates the beginning of the song, and you lose some information. And so it could actually kill your MP3 collection. Now, they've released a hotfix for it, and they've made that available to people on MSDN and TechNet and so forth. I assume that they're going to make that available via Windows Update so that if anyone does, in fact, install this thing on their computers, they'll just get it automatically. But I don't know that, so I'm not sure how they're going to do that.
So it's worth getting up at 6 a.m., though. I mean, it sounds like... do you think
if you want a product key and you think you're going to be running this thing for the next few months, yeah, you're going to want to...
Now, if I install it, when does it time out? Did they say 6 months?
August 1st.
August 1st.
Yeah.
Do you think that means they'll ship August 1st?
I think they're going to ship around that time.
Because that's the beta. So it's not like we could download a different beta to update it.
Right.
I would look at the 3 months it took to get from M3 to beta and add 3 months for RC and add 3 months for final. And where does that put us? July?
Yep.
Now, and I've asked you this before we asked last week, but you are using Windows 7 on your production machines. This is your full-time operating system now.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Mary Jo? Have you moved over to Windows 7 yet?
No. And you know why? This is kind of interesting. I haven't been allowed into the beta so far.
What?
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. So,
what?
You were at Mary Jo, you were at the Reviewers Workshop, right?
No, I was banned from the Reviewers Workshop.
Whoa, you were one of the people banned. Why were you banned? Well, you're the most prominent person covering Microsoft in the world today.
Now, what about Paul?
Well, between the two of you, you control it all. Paul got in. Why didn't you?
Here's why I didn't get in, and I'm actually going to defend Microsoft on this. I'm not a reviewer. Number one, I don't review products.
Right.
And number two, I'm a news reporter. So I don't want to take an embargo. I want to be able to bust their embargoes. That's my job.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, Mary Jo. I don't sign in NDAs even. I won't do them.
No, I do. I take NDAs when I need to take them, but I can't take a longer term NDA because that's not what my job is.
It hampers your ability to cover the news.
Right. So once the public beta is out, I can start playing with it. But I have not actually personally touched Windows 7 so far.
Aren't you ethical?
Well, I think once I do, it's going to be interesting because I've read and written so much about it, but I actually haven't played with it. So I can't wait to actually try it.
It'd be like meeting that guy you met in the chat room 4 years ago.
Just like that.
Just like that. Man, I feel like I know you. Windows 7, I know you.
I remember you back when you were called Windows Vista.
That's what I'm curious about is how much, you'll go, wait a minute. Let me check and see. Is this 7? Oh, yeah.
Very, very similar.
Yeah. So that sounds like, do you think 2.5 million people will download that within, say, 12 hours?
12 minutes, yeah.
12 minutes, that fast. It's worth getting up. It's like tickets to see, Axl Rose. You want to get up early.
Oh, I don't know about that, but it would be...
Tripod.
Tripod! Wait a minute. Let's
comes
play
with a free tripod. I think that's actually why you want to do it. You get a free tripod. Which it will then kill when you rip it to MP3.
Let's hear a little bit more of that fine tripod music.
I'm having Vietnam flashbacks over here.
I want to kill somebody. Oh, God, that's awful.
That's just bad. What is wrong with you? Why would you do that?
You mean me? Or me? Why would I do that to you?
Why did you do? I mean, it's you're turning the screws over there. What are you doing?
Steve Ballmer told me to. All right, we're gonna take a break. Anything else? Anybody else have anything else to say about CES? Any other last comments? Mary Jo, anything you saw you thought was interesting? Any?
The one thing I thought didn't get a lot of notoriety in the keynote, but I'm actually interested to see if this makes any difference whatsoever, is these preload deals that Microsoft's striking with Verizon and Dell for live search. Like they've just so not been able to grow live search above 8% market share or whatever. Is this going to make a difference? I'm very.
Hasn't it only gone down?
Yeah, it used to be 10 or 12, and now it's 8.
I think this is going to be an interesting lesson in how adept consumers are at changing their search defaults. I don't see that doing anything. I think the thing that they did with Dell, where they're bundling Windows Live Essentials on their PCs, is
that's
something
cool.
that will be repeated across the industry. I think everyone's going to do that because.
Well, it doesn't make sense. You buy a new computer and you have to go. First thing you have to do is go out and download the software on it.
Windows 7 includes a DVD maker, but not a movie maker.
Right.
It's crazy. So,
but they have to strike these deals, though. Like they have to pay the OEMs to do it. If they weren't doing that, it would be a DOJ issue again.
Wait a minute. Now that's interesting. Let's repeat that. So the OEMs are not paying Microsoft. Microsoft is paying them.
Sure.
Right.
Of course.
Right. Because
your antitrust dollars at work.
Yeah, totally. If they weren't doing that, like if they weren't making it look like it was open for competition and anybody could get their services preloaded, the Google and the DOJ and the EU would be all over them.
It'd be bundling all over again.
Yep.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting and kind of depressing.
You wanted Microsoft to have to pay for bundling, and now they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas Apple can load up all this crap on their computers.
Sure.
Although, I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, it's free.
No one's saying it's not crap. You got to think about that one for a second.
I'm writing that down. I'm gonna have to analyze this later. I don't understand what you just said, but it sounds like a slam. All right, we're gonna take a break and come back.
It's high quality software, and iWork is also software. So,
you know what? I use iWork, and I used Keynote for my speech today, and it's far superior to PowerPoint.
I use Microsoft Paint. Everyone has that little embarrassing.
Keynote is great. Pages has gotten much better. It's a very good word. I think very capable word processor.
Pages is like the stepchild that tries hard but never quite.
But I will agree with you that numbers ain't no Excel. That there's no question about that. It's just I don't understand. You can't do some of the simplest things that you want to do. You go, wait a minute, what? You can't. As far as I know, if anybody can figure this out, you can't lock a region so that as you scroll down, you could still see the title of the columns. That's like fundamental basic spreadsheetology.
You have already described this product for longer than I'll ever use it in my entire life.
I don't install Office on most Macs, but I do install Excel on most Macs because you got to have it.
Numbers, I don't know. This is a TV show you're talking about, right?
Yeah, right. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Paul's got some tips and some software downloads. Mary Jo, do you want to stick around? It's really all Paul from here on in.
Wow.
Sure, I'll just listen.
Oh, aren't you kind? Throw in anything you want. Do you ever listen to audiobooks, Mary Jo?
I do not.
Oh, well, Mary Jo.
But I should.
You really ought to. You really ought to. Do you like to read?
I read a ton.
Do you describe yourself as a reader?
Well, no, that's a legitimate question. There are people, I see people all the time who say, I would subscribe to Audible, but I don't read.
It's kind of like meeting that guy in the chat room. Do you read?
Yeah, that's the first question one should ask. Have you ever read a book in the last?
I have, one or two.
Yeah. Do you like novels? Do you like nonfiction?
She has written a book.
I've even written a book. You're right.
Oh, well, of course, but that doesn't mean anything. Many people who've written books have never read a book.
That doesn't mean anything. That's
a good point.
So maybe she should read her book for Audible, and then they could be an Audible version of it.
Oh, I'm looking right now to see if there isn't. What's the name of it?
Microsoft 2.0.
Oh, that's right. Of course. They do a lot of business books. I don't think they have Microsoft 2.0.
No, probably not. I haven't read my own book. I know that. So.
Once you've written a book, the last thing you want to do is read it.
Oh, man, no, I did not want to read
we
it.
could have like a cast, and we could do one of those dramatic readings.
Ooh, a dramatic reading. And then Steve Ballmer walked up to me and said,
"Oh, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the Microsoft."
No, we wouldn't do that to it. We would give it all the depth. But do you read fiction as well? What style of fiction do you like?
I mostly read fiction. I like a lot of different styles.
Paul likes the crime fiction.
I just point out that you offered to let her go. She nicely agreed to stay. And now you have been grilling her.
Now I'm harassing her.
Reading habits.
Well, all right, I'll stop right here. I'm just trying to find an Audible book for. See, this is the deal. If you go to audible.com/windows, you sign up for the Audible Gold account, you get a free credit towards your first book so that you can see if you like Audible. You don't have to stick around. If you don't, your book is yours to keep. That's fine. Plays on the Zune. That's good news. Plays on your Kindle. Plays on, of course, all the iPods and the iPhone and most MP3 players, in fact, and some things like weird things you wouldn't expect, like GPSs. I think listening to books, to me, I just love it. Maybe it's because my mama used to read to me when I was a kid. I don't know, but I feel like I enjoy the book more. I absorb it better. And if you've got a commute, see, I'm talking to two people who work out of their homes, so this is the wrong people to talk to here. But if you've got a commute, man, this is a lifesaver. Audible.com/windows, and I like your choice of the week, Paul. Paul reads. Paul is an erudite fellow.
Yes, I'll have to look that one up later. But no, I hear snatches of things on NPR, especially when I'm driving around town. I don't actually go anywhere, so
right.
But in those short drives, I hear things. I heard an author. I believe it was this very book. So it's American Lion, the Andrew Jackson biopic, and he's an interesting guy, and the author seemed really interesting. And it's not read by the author, I don't believe, but it's
not.
Interesting.
It's read by Richard McGondale. But I saw this guy, the guy who wrote it, Jon Meacham, on The Daily Show, and it really made me want to read this book.
Yeah. He was a character, and he was the guy.
This guy's story is unbelievable.
It is absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. I think by the time he died, he had several bullets still embedded in his body, and
he fought
he was a
duels while he was in the White House.
Yeah.
Old Hickory, they called him.
He wasn't just talk.
Oh, no. This was the last real He-Man president.
Yeah.
And they called him Old Hickory, American Lion, Andrew Jackson in the White House. See, what I like about Audible is they've got fiction, nonfiction, science fiction, romance fiction. But I listen to a lot of history on Audible.com, and it's a great way to kind of get the education that I didn't get in college because I was too busy getting high.
Well, you'll never be president, my friend.
No, I inhaled, baby. American Lion, but don't do it, kids. Don't do it. It's not a good thing. You see what happened to me? You don't want this to happen to you. Read a book. Be cool. Stay in school. American Lion, Andrew Jackson in the White House. It's our pick at audible.com/windows. Now, here's what you do. You go to that website. You get the credit. You get the book. You listen to the book. Then you can decide, is this something for me? I guarantee you're going to love it. I love it. Audible.com/windows. They are so supportive of our shows. We really appreciate the partnership that they give us on Windows Weekly. All right, Polly, my friend, I'm ready for your... you want to do... Actually, you got it upside down today. Do you want to do software first?
On purpose.
Okay.
So the software pick of the week is the Windows 7 beta.
Yep.
Right, because it's coming out tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, you can't wait. No waiting. Quick, get it. If you're listening to this tomorrow, which you are, because today is yesterday,
it's too late.
It's too late.
I'm sure it'll be a few days, but you're going to want to go early and often, yeah.
Okay. Because only two... Why do they limit it to 2.5 million? What is that? What is that all about?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
What's the point, man?
I think it's just to make a point, In other words,
right.
We know
for everybody.
Okay. Right. It's not for everybody. I don't think that's the marketing message they want us to put out there.
This isn't for everybody. This is just for the special people.
You'll forgive me, if I demur. I think they probably want you all to do this.
That is how they market it.
It's not for everybody.
That might make people want it more.
They would.
It's worth trying.
You know what? That's the Apple trick.
So every time you complain, they could say, well, Paul, it's not for everybody.
No. So where do we go to get it?
Microsoft.com. They told me, I don't have specific URLs, but they told me that they would have 4 different spots on their web farm there for this, and that those places would be oriented around different customer types. So Microsoft.com/Windows will clearly be one of those places.
Yeah, and Microsoft.com/Windows 7 is one for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to Microsoft.com/Switch.
Switch.
Yeah, I'm a switcher.
Is there a switch?
There probably is. Actually, I should try. That's a very interesting question. Switch. And in your experience, no, they don't have a switch. See, they need a switch. Come on.
I agree.
They need a switch. In your experience, are the servers usually able to handle the kind of traffic they're going to see for this?
No.
So, in a word, no.
It's going to be ugly. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to have to hit it often.
They unleashed it last night on TechNet and MSDN, and that was a slow slog, So you're not going to want to do this in a dial-up modem.
No. How big is it?
I think it's between 2 and 2 point something, 3 point something, depending on which version you get.
Gigabytes? Wow.
Yeah, the 64-bit version is 3 points. I don't remember.
Wow.
3.2.
Oh my goodness, the size of that.
Well, they're one DVD's worth.
So that's 4.7.
Well,
if
it's less.
If it was full,
the actual
full DVD.
It's only ISO. You can't order a DVD. So what you do is you download an ISO, and then you'll have to burn it to DVD yourself.
Oh my goodness! You know what it might? Do you get the serial number first?
I'm not a time traveler, Leo, so I'm not actually sure how they're going to do it. But
come on, Paul! I expected more of you.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Because if they got the serial number, then you could just say, okay, now I'm going to download the rest from somewhere else.
There you go.
I'm not going to recommend that, though, because you're absolutely right. You don't know what you're getting if you get it somewhere else. So you want to get the actual Windows 7. Is there a name for this? Is just Beta 1 RC?
I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say it will be obvious when it happens. I don't know. Windows 7
it's
Beta.
Just plain old Beta, no Beta 1 anymore.
Windows 7,
Beta.
the Beta.
The Beta.
Tripod, the Beta.
Exactly. Their new hit signal. We don't use Beta 1 anymore.
It's Beta 7 all over again. And
so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about the tip, but if you have more to say.
Yes. Well, I actually have 2 tips, and they're both around Windows 7. I promise I won't keep doing this. I know no one listening to this is using Windows 7
yet. No, by now, everybody listening is using Windows 7.
Well, I assume that enough people will download this that this will be useful. So 2 things I found that are very cool, or at least useful, in Windows 7. One is the Play To option in Windows Media Player allows you to bring up content on your PC and then play it to a compatible device.
Oh, that's really good. I like that.
So there are 2 ways I found to make this work in the beta with things that I happen to have in my own home. So, for example, you can play from PC to PC. So if you were sitting in your office and maybe you had a Media Center PC out in the other room, you could actually bring up a playlist, right-click, play to, select that other computer, and it will play through Windows Media Player on the other system. So if it's connected to a better stereo, whatever, you could adjust the volume from the originating computer and all this stuff. You can also do things like browse media from using computer A, browse the media library on computer B, and play it to computer C.
Wow.
As long as those computers were all in the same home group, which is a new networking construct they have in Windows 7. The other thing that it works with that I have is the Xbox 360, and I didn't originally think this would work, but if you have Media Center, if you launch the Media Center Extender software, you can play it to the extender. And that's actually pretty useful because a lot of people have Xbox 360s out in their den, and they can actually use that as sort of a media hub. And so that's kind of a nifty feature. It's something to look at. It's a little bit hidden. You have to right-click in Media Player to see it, so it's not something that you might stumble across normally. The other one is Windows Live Messenger, and they've changed the program so that if it's running in Windows 7, it doesn't minimize to the tray anymore like it does in all previous versions of Windows. And at first I thought I would try to make this work for me, but actually I really don't like that behavior. It's another icon or another group of icons in the taskbar. It takes up space. It's an application that I don't often need to go to and use directly. If someone instant messages me, that window will pop up and I can deal with it. But the actual application window, I don't really need to see an icon for it. in the taskbar, and I really don't like that behavior. And someone was nice enough to write me an email and tell me that you can, in fact, go find the executable for this application, right-click it, choose Properties, go to the Compatibility tab, and then choose Vista Compatibility. And when you run the application again, it goes back to the tray. So if you want that thing to act like it did before, which I think you will eventually if you use it, that's the way to get around that.
Very cool. You know what? I use the just the send to music thing is really cool. I use that to wake my kids up. I will record a get up, get up, get up, and then I play it on their computer and it comes out of their speakers. It's really effective. Just so you know, just something you might want to try.
It's like an exorcist type thing. You hear voices.
I don't even have to go upstairs. I play it from the downstairs.
Technology is working for you.
Hey, one thing we didn't mention, and I'll mention in one more CES thing that looks pretty good, is the Sony announced a new Vio P.
Yeah.
That looks slick. Runs
You know
Vista.
what's cool about that? Maybe you'll remember this, and Mary Jo might remember this too. I think it was HP used to make a Windows CE-based device that had that same form factor, where it's very long and thin. It's basically a keyboard with a screen that's exactly the size of the keyboard.
Yeah, it's like almost a full-size keyboard, and then the screen is 1600 by 768.
It is a full-size keyboard. Right?
Yeah.
So the Windows CE device I'm referring to was actually smaller, and it was too small for me. But this Sony thing, I think I could actually use this.
And it does this really interesting thing, and I think some other netbooks do this, where when you I want to know if this is a Microsoft thing or not. When you first boot it up, it has kind of like a limited version, so you can get email or surf, and then if you want to go on, you could do Vista, but it's like a quick access.
Right, a lot of computers have that. HP has something like that, and
that's right. HP does it on the TouchSmart, don't they? Yeah.
They do it on all kinds of PCs. Yeah, you could play a DVD movie without launching Windows.
Is that a Microsoft thing, or is that something? No,
that's third party.
They just figured out how.
But it's actually very common.
Sorry about that. I opened a window.
Okay.
Never open a window in the middle of a show, ladies and gentlemen.
I bet that there's a huge percentage of computers sold this year that have some kind of extra Windows environment like that. For whatever reason, that's actually very common.
It seems attractive for a netbook style device. Now, this is going to be $1,000. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
And I think some of the appeal, at least right now, of the netbooks is that they're sub $500 price. So I don't know, but
this thing is really nice looking. It's colorful look. Really high wrist screen.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned it doesn't have a wrist rest. Obviously, that's part of the form factor.
Yeah, your hands just fall off the edge. Yeah.
I don't think it's designed for heavy duty writers like myself. It's for normal people. So actually, it's probably fine. I mean, it's probably fine for the occasional email and so forth.
Looks pretty.
But what is it called? It's like a Vio P series, maybe?
Vio P. Yeah. It's a lifestyle computer.
There you go.
You get it from Sony Style today.
It's an accessory. You need to get different colors, so depending on what you're wearing that day, you can bring the right one.
Right. They have black. They have red.
They have a nice green one, I think. That's the one
I would think, maybe, again, because you guys don't travel so much, I would think, though, for journalists, it'd be a really handy thing to have this fairly lightweight. You remember the Model 100 from Radio Shack was so popular with the press because...
Well, that's the HP thing I was talking about. Jerry Purnell used one of those for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always kind of envied that because it was so small and light. It wasn't full Windows, though, and again, it wasn't a full-size keyboard, but that's what makes this Sony thing so interesting because this is the real deal. And, of course, now with the way processors and all that stuff is going, the performance should be fine.
Right.
And that's really interesting.
Well, it's like a 1.86 gigahertz Atom. I mean, it's a pretty fast processor in there.
Yeah, it looks
that's
nice.
it. If you pay up for it, it's a 133 for the base model.
133.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, 133 is that like a typical netbook system? Is that what they have?
Yeah, that's about right. Most of them have Atom nowadays, and it's that kind of.
Yeah.
But what are we? 1.33 gigahertz. It's like we're so spoiled now. Well, if it doesn't have 2, I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't think I could run that. I remember asking once. I was interviewing Intel and I asked Craig, what's his name?
Barrett.
I said, why would anybody, this was, by the way, in my defense, this was like 2004, 2003. Why would anybody want a 2 gigahertz processor? And he said, only old journalists like you ever asked me that question.
Awesome. This guy's going to be at least 10 years older than you, right?
Craig, yeah, you're killing me. He said, just ask any college kid why they want 2 gigahertz. That's Craig, you're killing me here. Anyway.
Why would anyone want a keyboard on their phone?
Good point.
You can't possibly type on such a thing.
Good point. I stand corrected.
Probably type me on a regular keyboard. Have you seen these people go to town on a little phone? Yeah.
My kids. All right. Hey, Mary Jo, I'm really glad you joined us. Thank you so much for being here. We just love having you on the show. Anytime you want to stop by, it's blogs.zdnet.com/Microsoft.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I guess Ziff Davis is out of the print business. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, at least the consumer side is, right?
Yeah. ZDNet is different from Ziff Davis, or no? I can never remember.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep, we're part of CBS and CNET.
You're part of the CBS Interactive family.
We are.
So that's good. Good times ahead for you guys.
Yeah.
Poor Ziff Davis. I got to think.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Paul, did you ever work for ZD?
No.
Yeah. Mary Jo and I are both old ZD heads.
Yep.
And it used to be a great organization. I mean, really, it's kind of sad how what's happened to it. Anyway, we go zdnet.com/Microsoft. That's in the blogs section. That's Mary Jo's great Microsoft blog, a must-read for Microsoft watchers. Paul Thurrott is the editor-in-chief of the SuperSite for Windows, WinSuperSite.com. And, of course, news editor for Windows IT Pro and the author of the great Windows Vista Secrets, soon to be obsolete.
Already obsolete.
Is Raphael, are you and Raphael already working on the new one?
Yeah, in fact, I have to, I'm behind on this. By tomorrow, I need to get my proposal in for
Windows 8?
Windows 7.
Oh.
And
you better hurry. You better hurry. Microsoft's going to get it out before you get the book out. Maybe that's why they didn't want to announce a ship date, just to mess with you, Paul.
Just to mess with me, yeah.
We would tell everybody it's coming out in April, but we don't want Paul Thurrott to know.
What could go wrong? You'll be fine.
Paul and Mary Jo, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week on Windows Weekly.